legal, and it's here.
We'll do one more question before closing statements. So we had a couple come in here from the audience. One concerning racial disparities in Kalamazoo, and you have policies to narrow racial disparities. And then also a question on when it comes to investing in small business, what will you do to encourage and bring resources to minority businesses? And Pete Kushner, you will answer this question first.
Those kind of two-part question, if you mind.
Sure. So addressing racial disparities in Kalamazoo, you have policies to narrow those, and you also, what would you do when investing in small business to encourage and bring resources to minority businesses?
Well, I think it starts with equity. I think it starts with our city taking a look at the policies that we have and the way that we can connect those business people, those people that have been most affected, to the services that they need to not just get them in business, but to allow them to succeed in business. Our community, not just our city, our community, out to the county and beyond. There's a lot of resources out there, and the city doesn't have all the answers for this, but there's a lot of other NGOs or non-government organizations that we should be able to facilitate with those groups that do this for a living, that can connect those people and work with people that have been affected in the past, work with people that need that helping hand to support them so that they can not just grow, but thrive in the businesses that they want to start.
Patrese Griffin. Again, the question concerns racial disparities in Kalamazoo, how to narrow those, and how to bring investment to minority-owned businesses.
So I think for starters, you need to have representation at the table. And so your commission should be as diverse as the community at large. With that being said, for the past year, and I've been working on policies that directly relate to racial disparities in housing. Kalamazoo is 11% Black, yet 60% of the homeless population is Black. That is a racial disparity. In order to address these issues, you need people at the table who have direct knowledge, who have direct experience. And as far as the businesses is concerned, when I answered the question earlier about businesses, I was talking about all businesses, whether they're minority or not. When we're talking about equity, we wouldn't even have to ask about minority businesses if there was equitable practices in the first place. And so what we need to do is be very intentional about the policies that are written, the policies that are on the books, because unless they were written with an equitable lens, which most of the time they probably weren't, then we're already behind.
Emily Demorest, same question, reducing racial disparities and bringing investment in small business to minority business.
So I think when we look back through the history of the United States, the United States was founded on racism and in the exploitation of Black communities for economic gain, right? So we have to be real about where we're starting. We are not where we are by accident. Policies were created by our federal government and carried out by local jurisdictions to specifically target and marginalize Black people from home ownership, from their neighborhoods, from participating in civic life in all these areas. I absolutely believe it's the job of government to actively correct those. It's not an afterthought for NGOs. That is our job, to make sure that our city works for all people. I think one of the things specifically that we can do that would make the biggest difference is to invest in home ownership programs for Black residents to equal out some of those disparities that were created by redlining policies throughout the past 60 years.
Chris Cradle, addressing racial disparities and investing in minority-owned businesses.
I'm kind of just going to start off by kind of taking a step back and just recognizing my personal white privilege and the privilege I'm given in life that I was just born into, both by the color of my skin and by the zip code I was born into. I've certainly had challenges in my life, but I cannot even begin to convey or understand the challenges that people simply just by the different color of skin have encountered and do encounter to this day in our community because of the practices that generationally have happened for so long. The reality is our communities and our neighborhoods are still as racially divided as they were decades ago, and they haven't made near enough progress towards that. I think one of the echo out Patrese is making sure that our community is representative in all walks of how the city works, whether it be the boards or the city commission, but also like the boards of the advisory groups, making sure that public safety, that our employees, that the people working, the contractors that we hire represent the city, and that we take attention to making sure that we're doing that. And in terms of the business component, sorry, I'm out of time.
Benjamin Stanley, addressing racial disparities and investing in small businesses, bringing resources to minority businesses.
It is true, Kalamazoo is a very diverse community. I grew up in Grand Rapids, and it's not the same. Kalamazoo definitely does struggle with the racism thing. It is there. How to solve it, I think, comes down to helping people just enjoy life together, which is not an easy thing to do all the time. I guess echoing what a lot of people have said, making sure that everything is equitable, but how to go about doing that is very complicated. I think listening to people and seeing how they feel about things is very important, and that's probably the most important thing to do, is listen and see how people are feeling about what's going on. Thanks.
Gene Hess, addressing racial disparities and investing in minority businesses.
One of the biggest indicators of the health of our community is the infant mortality rate, where the black infant mortality rate is 4 times that of the white infant mortality rate. It is being definitely addressed, and as we address that, we address the root causes of that, which are the systemic racism that has created that. I'm really supportive of the work of Isaac and other entities that are helping to make that go away or be equitable. The promise of Kalamazoo should address race from an education perspective. It is intended to make sure that everyone has that. I was at Kalamazoo College at a time when Eileen Wilson-Oyularen, our first black female president, increased the diversity of our student body exponentially, and I would do that in the city of Kalamazoo. Thank you.
Jacob Andrews.
All right, so a lot here, so I'm going to be quick. There is not one solution to solving the racial disparities in the city. Every single decision that city commissioners make, they must take into account how it will affect low-income people of color in this community. One way that we could make our system more equitable and could make our city government more equitable is implementing a ward system. Right now, we elect our city commissioners at large, which leaves a lot of neighborhoods underrepresented or unrepresented. If we had a ward system so you were electing your commissioners based on the neighborhoods you live, it is ridiculous to think that people on the north side are facing the exact same issues as people in Winchell. And it's ridiculous to expect commissioners to understand everything that's happening in each different community. We need commissioners who are dedicated to what is happening in each neighborhood. And then for minority businesses, simple tax abatements and incentives for minority businesses needs to be the priority.
Thank you.